Can you imagine waking up to find that the people you loved, the very family you thought would be there for you no matter what, had completely abandoned you? Not just for a few days, but for months, while you lay unconscious, fighting for your life. And why? Because they thought you were a lost cause, a burden. Until, that is, they stumbled upon a secret that changed everything, a secret worth $850 million. Was I wrong for holding onto that secret, even after what they did? Tell me honestly, would you have done the same? My story starts long before the coma, in a childhood that was, to put it mildly, complicated. I was always the different one in our family. My older sister, Clara, was the golden child, effortlessly beautiful, popular, and destined for a seemingly perfect life. My younger brother, Ben, was the charming rogue, always getting into trouble, but somehow always forgiven. And then there was me, the quiet, bookish middle child, often overlooked, sometimes mocked for my quirks, and consistently made to feel like I didn't quite fit in. My parents, bless their hearts, loved us all, I suppose, but their attention was always disproportionately skewed towards Clara and Ben. I learned early on to be self-sufficient, to find my own solace in books, in science, in the intricate puzzles of the world that no one else in my family seemed to care about. They were a family of artists and free spirits, while I was drawn to logic and numbers. It was a constant, subtle disconnect that deepened with every passing year. I remember one Christmas, I got a chemistry set, while Clara received a designer handbag and Ben a new gaming console. My parents' eyes glazed over when I tried to explain the wonders of chemical reactions, quickly moving on to Clara's latest fashion dilemma or Ben's sports achievements. It wasn't malicious, not overtly so, but it was a constant reminder of my outsider status. Despite this, I always held on to the hope that, deep down, we were a family, and that when push came to shove, that bond would transcend our differences. Oh, how naive I was! After high school, I dove headfirst into my passions. While Clara went off to art school and Ben chased various fleeting entrepreneurial dreams, I enrolled in a rigorous engineering program, specializing in biomedical technology. I thrived in that environment. The complexity, the challenge, the potential to make a real difference, it all resonated deeply with me. I poured every ounce of my energy into my studies, often working late into the night, fueled by cheap coffee and an unshakable determination. My family, of course, didn't really understand what I did. They'd ask vague questions about my nerd stuff, and then quickly change the subject to Clara's latest gallery showing or Ben's new girlfriend. I stopped trying to explain. It was easier that way, less disappointing. My true family became my colleagues, my mentors, the brilliant minds I collaborated with in the labs. It was through one of these collaborations that I met Dr. Thorne, a visionary but eccentric geneticist who was working on something truly revolutionary. He was trying to develop a highly advanced, personalized gene therapy, but he was stuck on a critical component, a miniaturized, self-regulating biological delivery system. It was a problem that had baffled the scientific community for years. I, fresh out of my PhD and brimming with ideas, saw a potential solution. I spent months, working almost around the clock, developing a complex algorithm and a series of prototypes that, against all odds, seemed to work. Dr. Thorne was ecstatic. We secured a massive grant, formed a startup, and began the painstaking process of clinical trials. This wasn't just a job, it was my life's work, a chance to truly impact humanity. It was during this incredibly intense period, when our startup was on the cusp of a major breakthrough, that the accident happened. I was driving home late one night, exhausted but exhilarated after a particularly successful trial run. A drunk driver swerved into my lane. The last thing I remember was the blinding headlights, the screech of tires, and then darkness. I woke up what felt like moments later, but it wasn't moments. It was 6 long months. 6 months I had spent in a medically induced coma, battling severe brain trauma and multiple organ failure. The recovery was brutal, a slow, agonizing climb back to consciousness. The doctors told me I was incredibly lucky to be alive. When I finally came to, disoriented and weak, I expected to see familiar faces. My parents, Clara, Ben, surely they would be there, relieved, tearful, happy that I had returned. But the room was empty, save for a kind-faced nurse who introduced herself as Sarah. She was the one who gently broke the news. My family had visited for the first few weeks, she explained, but as my condition remained critical, their visits became less frequent, then stopped altogether. They had, she said, moved on. My heart shattered into a million pieces. Moved on. How could they just move on? I was their daughter, their sister. Did my life mean so little to them? Sarah, sensing my profound sadness, tried to reassure me that I wasn't alone, that the hospital staff had become my surrogate family. And indeed, they had. They were the ones who cheered me on during physical therapy, who brought me books and played my favorite music. They were the ones who truly cared. Dr. Thorne, too, was a constant presence. He visited every single day, keeping me updated on our startup's progress, talking to me even when I couldn't respond, his unwavering faith a beacon in my darkest hours. He explained that he had tried to reach out to my family, to impress upon them the critical nature of my work and the potential financial implications, but they had dismissed him, convinced I was lost cause, a drain on resources. As I slowly regained my strength, a profound bitterness began to fester within me. How could they? How could my own flesh and blood just abandon me? I replayed every memory, every slight, every moment of feeling like an outsider, and it all clicked into place. I wasn't just different, I was expendable. They had shown their true colors when I was at my most vulnerable. And yet, there was something else. Before the accident, Dr. Thorne and I had finalized the intellectual property transfer for my biological delivery system and algorithm. It was groundbreaking, patented under my asterisk name, and valued by preliminary estimates at a staggering sum. We had also just signed a pre-acquisition agreement with a major pharmaceutical company, contingent on the final success of our Phase 3 trials, which were nearly complete when I crashed. That agreement, if it went through, would make me incredibly wealthy. I had told my family about the startup, of course, but I had always downplayed the financial aspect, preferring to focus on the scientific achievement. They probably hadn't even truly listened, dismissing it as more of my nerd stuff. They had no idea of the true scale of what was about to happen. And now they certainly weren't going to find out from me. A cold, hard resolve settled in my heart. They had abandoned me when I had nothing but my life hanging by a thread. They didn't deserve to share in my triumph. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, walking through the IW hat, with a TU to com PAUCON FIDDE comment N below E, I had you would have done in my never FELT before S hose. Would you have forgiven them, or would you have kept your monumental secret to yourself? My recovery continued, slow and arduous, but fueled by a quiet determination. I worked harder than ever, pushing through the pain of physical therapy, forcing my brain to reconnect the synapses that the trauma had disrupted. Dr. Thorne and our team were incredible, picking up where I left off, navigating the final stages of the clinical trials with remarkable success. The pharmaceutical giant, true to their word, moved forward with the acquisition. The deal was finalized a few months later, and just like that, I became a multi-millionaire, my net worth soaring to an astronomical $850 million. The news made ripples in the scientific and business communities, but my name, having been kept deliberately out of the public eye during my recovery, wasn't immediately linked to the headline-grabbing acquisition. I kept a low profile, focusing on my health and the quiet joy of having achieved something truly remarkable, something that was entirely mine. The first thing I did was thank Sarah, the nurse who had been my angel, and quietly ensured her family was taken care of. Then I established a foundation dedicated to funding research for brain trauma and supporting patients who, like me, faced long recoveries with little to no family support. I built a new life, surrounded by people who genuinely cared for me, who saw me and not just my achievements or my potential. I learned to drive again, to cook, to live independently. I even adopted a rescue dog, a goofy golden retriever named Lucky, who became my constant companion. Then came the inevitable. A distant cousin, whom I hadn't spoken to in years, somehow stumbled upon an article that vaguely mentioned the lead scientist behind the revolutionary technology. Putting two and two together, she contacted my family. Suddenly, my phone, which had been silent for months, began to ring off the hook. First, it was Clara. Her voice, usually so confident and poised, was laced with an unfamiliar eagerness. "Oh my God, my name, is it really you? We've been so worried. Why haven't you called?" I let her ramble, my heart a stone. Then she got to the point, delicately at first, then more directly. "We heard about your success, this massive company. Is it true?" I played dumb, feigning confusion. She quickly became agitated, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. "The $850 million deal, my name, we heard you're a billionaire." My parents called next, their voices dripping with feigned concern and a palpable sense of entitlement. "Darling, we were so distraught when you were ill, we thought. Oh, we just thought the worst. But now, this news, we're so proud of you. You must come home, celebrate with us." Ben, ever the opportunist, texted with a string of emojis and a casual "Hey sis. Heard you hit the big time. Congrats, need a loan." They all started showing up at the hospital, then at the rehabilitation center, then at the new, modest home I had bought myself. They brought flowers, cards, apologies, and thinly veiled requests for money, for investments, for help, with their various financial woes. They spoke of family loyalty, of shared history, of how they were always there for me in spirit. It was a disgusting display. I met them all, individually, in a public setting. I looked each of them in the eye and delivered my carefully rehearsed speech. "Where were you," I asked Clara, "when I was fighting for my life in that hospital bed? Where were your tears and your pride then?" To my parents, I said, "You told the doctors to pull the plug, didn't you? You called me a burden. You signed off on the DNR." Their faces drained of color. "And Ben," I said, turning to my brother, "you wanted a loan. You couldn't even bother to send a single get-well card." I laid it all out, every hurtful comment, every missed visit, every instance of abandonment. I told them that the only reason they were here now was because of my success, not because of any genuine love or concern. And then I told them, calmly and resolutely, that they would never see a single penny of my money. Not now, not ever. They tried to argue, to plead, to guilt, trip me, but I was unshakable. I had learned a brutal lesson. Blood doesn't always mean family. The confrontation was harsh, but it was necessary. The fallout was immediate. They hurled accusations, calling me ungrateful, selfish, cold-hearted. They tried to rally distant relatives against me, but my cousin, the one who first tipped them off, actually sided with me after hearing my side of the story. She had witnessed their neglect firsthand. My family eventually stopped trying. They retreated, defeated, their dreams of a lavish inheritance shattered. I haven't spoken to them since, and honestly, I don't regret it. My life now is filled with purpose, with genuine connections, with a profound sense of gratitude for a second chance. I continue my work, pouring my energy into philanthropic endeavors, into pushing the boundaries of medical science, knowing that I am truly making a difference. I've learned that true family isn't about blood. It's about the people who show up, who stand by you, who love you unconditionally, even when you have nothing to offer. It's about loyalty, compassion, and unwavering support. And those are the people I choose to surround myself with now. So, that's my story. It's a harsh one, a story of betrayal and a painful awakening. But it's also a story of resilience, of finding strength in the face of abandonment, and of forging my own path. Like this video if you were on my side, if you think I made the right choice. Subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me, truly, what are your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.